Hello, my name is Peter Cordier and I'm an Implementation Service Manager for Europe, the Middle East and Africa here at Revizto. Welcome to this learning session called Revizto for Designers, using stamps to check drawings and models, where I'll be showing you how to use the tools in Revizto to check and validate design information. So with buildings and infrastructure projects, or anything really that in the construction industry, when things get built, a lot of information needs to be produced, like drawings and models, and that information should really be checked by the design team when that information is being produced. So I'm going to show you a workflow which we're going to run through today. So this is the workflow. It's actually been adapted from a client of mine that I'm working with closely. I'm not going to mention any names, but those people know who they are. So like I said, this has been slightly adapted. So we're going to run through this process step by step. So the idea being is that we use the stamps within Revizto to manage and effectively track when information is being produced, and to make sure that the right people are checking documents. So the first step is the person who produces the information, referred to as the originator, prepares the model or drawing in the native authoring software, and that gets, when that's ready for checking, they export the model to Revizto or the drawings. If using a common data environment, you can obviously upload to that space as well and apply the appropriate status, whether that's work in progress or some other status. So it's worth mentioning that this workflow can be used for checking work in progress, or for checking information at particular stages of the project. So once the drawing or model gets uploaded to Revizto, a custom stamp, in this case I'm using internal drawing approval and internal model approval as the example, but like I said, that can be used for external approval processes. So a stamp is placed on the document, drawing or model, and the originator at that point changes the title of the stamp to the document name and revision number if appropriate. They then notify the person who is going to be checking that information, and they do that by changing the assignee to the checker and changing the status of the issue to in progress. The checker will then mark up the drawing and model if they need to, and if there is a problem and it doesn't pass the check, that is shown here, and the issue status gets changed to closed, and the originator gets notified. They then update the drawing or model according to the markup, and then re-exports that information, and then that goes through the cycle again. If the check is successful and the document or drawing or model are acceptable, then the checker will change the status of the issue to closed, and that cycle is finished. We've actually got some additional steps here, so this workflow can be adapted depending on how many people you have that are checking the information. And in this example, we have actually 3 people in the process. We have a checker that then gets passed on to the reviewer, and then we have an approver at the end if the reviewer passes the check to the next step, and then that goes through to the end. So like I said, this is adaptable depending on particular needs. So we're going to have a look at an example of a model being checked. So here we have a Revit model. This is in this case, it's a mechanical model and I'm going to be pushing this into Revizto as my alias, one of the aliases that I use for the demonstration. So I'm pretending to be the mechanical engineer called Mike Mechanical. So you would prepare your model, you would export to Revizto in the normal way. So I would export the model, pick the view. I'm not exporting any sheets at this point. Make sure you've got the right model selected, and then you click export. And once you've exported the model, you come into the Revizto space, and just to show you what's been exported here, so the mechanical model has been exported, and this is a pre-recorded section of this webinar, so you'll see the date being before today. Yeah, so Mike Mechanical has exported his model to the project. So I will now come into the project, I will isolate my model. And I'm going to place my stamp here for this checking process to start. So I'm going to pick my stamp, pick the right one. We have document approval in this category. So I've got, in this case, a model. So I'm going to pick the stamp and place the stamp somewhere in the model space. And this really is now just an indicator for the person who's checking the information to actually do that. So I'm going to come into the issue tracker, and I'm going to change the name of the title, keep the actual title, the first part of it in there. So I'm just going to add here my model name. And if you have a revision, you can add that in there as well. But in this case, we're just checking work in progress models. So I'm going to select done. I'm going to change the status to in progress, and I'm going to change the assignee or assign this to Alan, architect. Okay, so now I'm going to log in as Alan, architect. So I've just logged out as Mike Mechanical to change the user. So yeah, just logging in as Alan. Then I'm going to open my issue tracker, and I'm going to open my preset filter, which I've called here Alan's models to check. So if I select on Alan's models to check, let's just have a look to see how that custom filter was made. So by assignee is the current user. So obviously if you're logging in as yourself, then that's fine. By status is in progress, which is in line with the process of the checking workflow, and by the stamp abbreviation, internal model approval. So essentially, any time that I have a model that I need to check, this by clicking on this filter, it will appear in my list. So I'm going to select the issue there, and I'm going to carry out my review. Now, the way in which the review is carried out is quite individual. But in this case, I'm going to actually jump into 3D, and I'm going to unisolate the other models, and I'm going to come in here and I'm going to start checking things out. So obviously I can't see my architectural model at the moment, sorry, my mechanical model. So I'm just going to open the object tree here. Let's isolate the model. So you can come around here, you can do your various checks. Let's just have a look to see what's happening. So this is just a very manual way of moving around the model to see what's going on. I'm just trying to see if there are any clashes. It looks like there's something going on there. So I've already spotted something very quickly that's wrong with this model. But let's just do some more checks. I'm going to come back out of here, I want to isolate my mechanical model and my structural model. And again, you can start to sort of interrogate what's happening, whether things are clashing. I'm going to actually just come back in here. I'm going to cut a section against that wall. Let's see what's going on with the M&E down here. Let's close this. Yeah, so I can clearly see a clash here. So clearly this model has some more work that needs doing to it. So I'm going to go back to the issue tracker, and I'm going to select on that issue, and I'm just going to write in here, hi Mike, there seems to be a lot that is uncoordinated. Please have a look and resubmit. So I've spotted something there. Here, come back in the issue tracker. I've got the 3D view open in the issue here in the issue tracker. I'm going to select Update 3D. Maybe mark this up. Duct terminal clashing with steel. Steel is fixed and cannot move. Okay, so there's just some more information of what's wrong with this model, and all of that dialogue and chat is logged in here. So I've made it clear that I'm not happy with this model. I'm now going to change the status to closed, which means that this model check has failed, essentially. So again, I've just signed out as Alan and signed in as Mike. If I go to the issue tracker and have a look at my filters, which I've created, so Mike's failed model checks, and again, I'll show you how that's been built. So essentially, you don't want to have any particular assignee attached to this filter, because there may be other people that are checking my models. So we have the status is closed, which means the check failed, and the stamp abbreviation is internal model approval. So if I go to presets, select that filter, you can see here that's my model that has failed the check, and I can come in here, I can see what the check is written down, and I can see what the issue is with that. So I would then go back into my Revit file, update it, sync it to or export it to Revizto again, and attach or place another stamp on the revised model, and that process would start again. Now for the drawing review example, I've signed myself in as Sven, the structural engineer, and I'm going to open my Revit structural model here, and I'm going to export my drawings from the structural model. So I can export to Revizto. Not the model this time, just my sheets. Select the sheets. I'm going to push all of these through. I'm going to select that as well. It's just a normal way of exporting, and I'm going to export. And the drawings have been exported to Revizto, and I've synced the project. So now I can open up my structural drawings as Sven. So I'm going to open this drawing, and I'm going to place the stamp internal drawing approval. can place it anywhere on the sheet, and I'm going to change the status to in progress, and again add the name of the drawing in here. I'm going to assign Alan, and that's now passed for review. So sign back in as Alan to check my drawings that have been assigned for me to check. So I'm going to select on my Alan's drawings to check issue filter. And as before, the assignee is current user, status is in progress, and stamp abbreviation this time is internal drawing approval. So looks like I've got something here to check. Let's minimize those columns, and I'm going to just have a look at this. There's clearly something going on there. So I'm going to edit the markup, and again, just draw attention to the fact that this is, coming off the page. That shouldn't be happening. I think that's fine, and I'm going to add into the chat what the issue is. So, hi Sven. Alan is very polite. So in his messaging, hi Sven, the drawing sheet looks to be misaligned. Please check. Okay, luckily there's spell check in there, send, and as before, everything is recorded in here. So I'm going to say that's closed, and again with the drawing, with the model review, the drawing review goes through the same process, and in this case it's failed. So that's how you would mark up a drawing and reject it in this case. So I've got a couple more drawings to review. Let's just see how a drawing review process looks like when it's passed. So you can see here Sven has assigned this to myself for review. Let's just have a look at the drawing here. Move that out of the way so I can see it a bit better. That looks good to me. Can't really see anything wrong with it. So if you're happy with the drawing, you can change the status to solved, and that's a drawing that's passed the review. And finally, we're going to look at how you would review or view this information using our dashboarding tool. So you can access the workspace from our reporting tool here, and you'll get the workspace open up in a browser. I'm looking at my dashboards here. I've created a dashboard called Document Review, and I've got two charts in this dashboard, one called Drawing Review Status, one called Model Review Status, and I can easily see which project team member has drawings that are either in progress of being reviewed, have been reviewed and passed, and how many have been reviewed and failed, essentially the checking process. So it looks like Sven's got quite a lot to do here, and again, one for models. So Alan looks like he's got quite a lot that haven't passed the review here with the models. Peter Cordier is doing quite well. He's got 5 sold, and he's got 3 that are in progress at the moment. So yeah, this is a very easy and effective way to see who is doing what within the project in terms of this model checking and drawing checking.